We find the disciples where we first found them, fishing along the seashore. It's like nothing had happened. And for them, after Jesus' resurrection, there were no television interviews to give, no tell-all books to write. There were no lecture circuits to travel. There was the simple business of providing food for themselves and for, presumably, the rest of Jesus' followers. And then Jesus appears. And as he did before, he says, "Follow me." But this time, he isn't going to lead them physically like he did for the past 3 years. He says, "Follow me, feed my sheep." And then he leaves that open. What does it mean, feed my sheep, tend my sheep? This threefold questioning that ultimately Peter responds rather poorly to is a literary device. It's symbolism. Because not so long before, Peter had sat in the courtyard and denied Jesus 3 times. And this is an undoing. 3 times, "Do you love me?" "Yes." "Do you love me?" "Yes." "Do you love me?" "Then feed my sheep." But how? Perhaps as you sit here today, you say, "God, yes, 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 I love you. God, yes, 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 I would like to feed your sheep. I would like to tend your sheep." But how? What is my role in your work in this world in the 21st century? When you say, "Follow me," and you are not here physically to lead us, how do we take this example, this skeletal example found in the Bible, and put that to use in our world? Not just in this church building, but outside of these walls. I think it's significant that Jesus came back to the disciples where they were. Jesus did not say, "We're going to meet in some special place, on a mountaintop, or in a room by ourselves." Jesus came to them while they were doing what they do: fish. And it's in that context that he said, "Follow me." And just as when he first chose them, he affirms that they are sufficient as they are. There is no seminary they need to attend. There is no seminar they need to go to learn how to be good disciples. There are no books of theology that they need to become experts in. They don't need to be able to quote Calvin or Luther. There's something inside them already. And as I said to the kids, I believe that's true of us as well. It's also my way of getting out of reading Calvin. Wade Zick was here last week. He's the, I'm going to get this right, Associate Conference Minister for Faith Formation for Family and Youth. Is what he does. And he did the adult forum as well as preach. And in the adult forum, what I had asked for him to speak to was, how can we empower people to bring their faith home? All right. Specifically, I wanted him to talk to parents who maybe wanted to bring religious atmosphere, a spiritual atmosphere to their home, but didn't have the words or the resources for it. And one of the resources that he talked about was a book about spiritual types, all right, spiritual typologies, and we're going to use corporate speech. And I think this church, many years ago, did look at spiritual types. This is a kind of a sub-industry in the publishing world. And there are many iterations of spiritual types, but they all come down to about 4 basic types. And I'm going to share them with you today because, just briefly, because it's something I think would bear looking at again as a congregation as we go forward, as we wonder, well, what's the next pastor going to bring? What's our work? And also, to answer the question, am I in the right church? Is there another church I should be at? If I go look, will I find a church that is a perfect fit for me? And the answer is no. It really isn't. And I've been in enough churches. I know. You've been in enough churches. You know there's always something you like, something you don't like. So you know it isn't about programming alone. It isn't about the style of worship alone. It's about the way you interact with the basic message. And not the messages that come through the pastors, but as you find it in the text, as you find it in the community. So, 4 spiritual types. First is called the head type. And this describes people for whom theological discussions appeal. So that's what they like about church. Come and talk theology or doctrine or denominational things. In fact, going to an annual denomination meeting would be like going to Disneyland for them. Ernie? And that's the head type. There's a heart type. Have you ever wondered how you can see somebody cleaning up or setting up downstairs, and you're like, I'm not going to make eye contact because I'll get sucked into that. But it's something that they seem to do, like joyfully. They've got a heart for it. That's the heart type. Service. It's something that just comes naturally. And along with the heart type, pietism is a big part of their lives as well. So prayer is a big part of their life. Then there is the mystic type. Those who have experienced a sense of an inner world. All right? This is the body. And that's all it is. What's behind it? We talked last week at youth group with the senior high about how we are conditioned. Our personalities are shaped. But who are you behind all that conditioning? That's the consideration of the mystic type. And then there's the kingdom type, the 4th type. The kingdom type is folks who are more activist. They understand that we're not waiting for a better world. This is God's world. We bring peace, we bring justice to this world. Now, the reason why I raise these at all is because, first of all, I think they can reduce a lot of anxiety. if you understand that you may be very strongly one type, and so a lot of church activities don't appeal to you. Why is it that this doesn't appeal to me, or that appeal to me? Well, that's all right. There's something else that does. We're a mixture of all these types, to some degree, but I think more importantly, I think it goes a long way in helping to understand that your neighbor, the person sitting next to you in the pew, may believe in a different way than you do, may respond to what goes on in this building different than you. And that's all right. We need all four types. We are each equipped differently. How are you equipped? What type are you? How does it show itself? It's evidence that God comes to us on the seashore that we stand on. Comes to us acknowledging the gifts that we have. There is none of us that is without use, without a role. When Jesus says, "Follow me," that is a call to all of us and each of us. Isn't it amazing? One last how. But how? How to follow Jesus? I would add, follow joyfully. All too often, church is seen as a drudgery, faith, religion, whatever word you use to encompass your beliefs and your communal setting. It's seen as a drudgery. Something you gotta do. Or why are we so ineffective against a world that is so full of pain and sorrow? Remember that the Bible tells us the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. In other words, yes, there is pain. There is sorrow, there is war, there is poverty, there is every manner of bad and wrong thing in this world. But we've got something good. We're part of something good. It is possible to live with that paradox of acknowledging what's not right in the world, but then fixing and bringing joy. We don't have to suffer for the world to get better. We just need to work. We just need to do what it is that you were put here for. Now, the reading today, a very long reading, ends on kind of a dour note. And it's where Jesus says, when you were young, you put on your belt and you went where you wanted, but you will now go, someone else will put your belt on and you will go where you were led. And it says parenthetically that Jesus was referring to Peter's death. Okay, and as a young kid, I was obsessed with Peter's death because it's one of the more grisly parts of our tradition. Peter was crucified upside down, if you don't know, because he didn't deem himself worthy of being crucified like Jesus was. And so when he says your hands will be held out for, he's talking about the crucifixion. If we focus on the grisly nature of what Jesus is saying, we miss the point of what Jesus is saying. And the point is this: Jesus is saying we are going to go someplace where we may not choose. It may be uncomfortable. It may not be what we choose. Our self-will may no longer be allowed to run riot. Imagine a world where our self-will isn't allowed to run riot, where we are no longer invited to play God. If you've ever played God in your life, how has that worked for you? Good? It's gone poorly for me. This is an invitation to give it over, to stop playing God, and just follow. So feed, tend. How? Follow Jesus. Follow God. If you don't believe that the heart is the center of the emotions, it's actually right. Follow how you experience God. Let this tradition resonate with you as it will. It will resonate differently with each of us. Embrace that. And embrace the fact that the person sitting next to you is going to supplement whatever you're doing with the way they experience God. Be confident. Not that God will equip you, but that God has equipped you from birth and will call those gifts forth when the time is right.